My name is Jake. I'm 38 years old. I've spent the last 18 years of my life working in logistics and inventory management. I've always had a deep love for lists, shelves, and bringing order to chaos. 2 years ago, when I accepted a position as a team lead and inventory specialist at one of the oldest and largest pharmacy chains in America, I genuinely felt like I had finally found my place. But unfortunately, things only looked perfect from the outside. From the very first day, some things felt off. The salary we had agreed upon during the interview didn't match what was written in my contract. Monica, the district manager, brushed it off with a vague excuse. There might have been a system glitch, she said casually. I was too excited about my fresh start to question it further. That was a mistake, one I didn't realize until much later. I was supposed to work under Monica. My position was dual, both team leader and inventory manager. If I had only been expected to do those two jobs, everything would have been fine. But within the first few weeks, I quietly started handling Monica's tasks too. She would come in, shut herself in her office, spend hours chatting with her family on the phone, and then storm out only to yell at the staff. There was no support, no guidance, only scorn and rage when we needed her most. Morale was at rock bottom. Monica made everyone feel useless, stupid, and inadequate. If you ran a mile, she'd ask why you didn't run 3. Even the impossible was never enough. Over time, I saw it clearly. She wasn't just a bad manager. She thrived on chaos. She spread gossip, played favorites, and created friction in the team for her own twisted amusement. But worse than Monica was Debbie. At 26, she was allergic to work, thrived on gossip, and lived for emotional meltdowns. If she didn't feel like working, she'd cry and lock herself in Monica's office, trying to calm down. Of course, she refused to go home. She still wanted to be paid. And Monica, she encouraged her, told her things like, "Just be yourself." Meanwhile, the rest of us were left to clean up Debbie's mess. Eventually, everyone gave up on dealing with her. Everyone except me. For months, I tried to manage her like a toddler on a sugar high. Then a small miracle. Debbie asked to be transferred to another store. I could finally breathe. But things didn't get better. They got worse. One by one, more responsibilities were silently dumped on me. Eventually, I had to give up the part of my job I loved most, being an inventory specialist. It broke something in me. And then came the final blow. A new assistant manager was hired. Her name was Riley. Within a week, she became the new Debbie, except smarter and more dangerous. Worse, she instantly bonded with Amber, one of our newer team members who was lazy, entitled, and openly disrespectful. One night, while I was the acting manager on duty, Amber disobeyed a direct instruction, cursed at me, and then shoved me. It was all clearly recorded on our best security camera. The next morning, I went straight to the office. I was ready to call HR. Monica saw me and panicked. She blocked my path. "Jake, let's handle this internally. No need to make a fuss. Don't put your job at risk," she said, looking me dead in the eye. A threat, not a suggestion. But this time, I didn't back down. In that moment, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just a toxic workplace anymore. It was dangerous. And me? I started planning. Quietly, strategically, and with absolute resolve. The moment Amber yelled at me, cursed, and then charged toward me, something inside me snapped. A few years ago, I would have reacted instantly. But I wasn't the old Jake anymore. I had learned the power of silence. That day, I contacted HR. I even prepared a written complaint. But Monica was one step ahead, desperate to cover things up. Turns out, she had trashed my report and submitted her own fabricated version into the system. According to the official records, Amber never even raised her voice at me. And the security cameras? They weren't working properly, apparently. What a coincidence. That's when I realized this wouldn't be a fair fight, but that didn't mean I was going to lose. Inside, I told myself, all right, I'll handle this in my own way. And I began. On the outside, I was still smiling, still organized, still doing my job. But internally, something had shifted. A plan had started to unfold. I began keeping records. Who said what? When it happened? Whose complaints were ignored? I logged every detail. I had a small black notebook. Nobody thought much of it, but I filled it daily. During that time, I made another decision. I would stop defending people. I would stop doing others' jobs. And as I pulled back, the store slowly began to crumble. Everyone was fighting with everyone. Debbie had failed to find peace at her new store and begged Monica to take her back. Of course, Monica welcomed her with open arms. When one of the team members openly said, "This is the end of us," I simply nodded. The more I stepped back, the faster the collapse came. Monica had no clue about the new tensions in the team. She was still locked in her office, spending hours on the phone with her son. Meanwhile, performance reports started to tank. Inventory was a mess. Shipments were delayed. Customer complaints rolled in. But I wasn't the one cleaning it up anymore. I just watched. And then I made one more decision. For the first time, I chose to think about myself. Up to that point, my career, my structure, and my professionalism had been sacred to me. But now, there was someone far more important waiting for me at home. My daughter. She's 4 years old and needs special care. Her smile is worth more than Monica's fake rules. For the first time in my life, I decided to live for my family, not for my job. My wife, Jasmine, had recently landed a major role at a prominent law firm. My family now had the strength to support me. So quietly, I wrote my resignation letter and tucked it into my drawer. I didn't date it. I waited. Meanwhile, Monica started spreading a rumor behind my back that I had found a wealthy woman and didn't need to work anymore. You know what's funny? I've never chased luxury in my life. But their belittling words were nothing more than a reflection of their own helplessness. So I laughed it off. Because real power is silence. And the more I kept quiet, the deeper they sank. Now, my resignation letter was folded neatly in my pocket. Not a single drop of regret in my eyes. I was just waiting for the right moment. And that moment, it was getting close. When it arrived, I was going to end this story with the justice I truly deserved. That day, as I slipped my resignation letter into my bag, I felt no hesitation. This place was no longer mine. There was no one left who saw my worth, no one who understood my efforts. The only thing I had gained from this war was the realization of how alone I truly was. But what I once called loneliness now had a new name: freedom. When I walked into the store for the last time, it was quieter than ever. Tension filled the air. Everyone's faces were stiff with unease. Monica was still locked away in her office. Debbie wandered the halls aimlessly. Amber was standing in the aisle, glued to her phone. The people who once tried to be a team were now just strangers. No one trusted anyone anymore. And the root of it all was Monica. She had slowly poisoned the ground we all stood on. I walked slowly to the office door and knocked. Without looking up, she said, "Yes?" I placed the envelope on her desk and said, "This is my official resignation." She finally looked up and, for the first time, said nothing. I didn't explain. I didn't justify. My silence spoke louder than any words I could have said. As I walked away, I heard her voice behind me, raised and desperate. "Jake, you're making a mistake." I paused at the doorway, still facing away. Maybe, I replied, but at least I'm no longer carrying someone else's mistakes. From that moment on, everything began to fall apart. The first day was just silence. The following week, one of my closest coworkers told me, "Your absence tore the store apart." Amber got into a shouting match with a customer. Debbie called in sick 3 times in a single week. And the once flawless inventory system? Chaos. 2 weeks later, someone from inside called me. "Jake, haven't you heard? Monica's been fired." I didn't react with surprise. I just asked, "Why?" The answer made me smile. Systematic negligence, creating a toxic work environment, covering up complaints, and most importantly, mass staff resignations. My departure had triggered a chain reaction. One by one, people who had quietly suffered for years followed suit. HR was flooded with new complaints. The new store manager reviewed the files and saw 6 formal reports filed right after my resignation. That was enough to launch an investigation. The outcome? Monica was terminated. Amber was suspended for workplace aggression. Debbie, well, no store wanted her. She was out of the system entirely. A month later, I was having dinner with my wife when my phone rang. It was Ellie, one of the younger cashiers. "Jake," she said, "the store's up for lease. For rent signs are all over the windows." I looked at Jasmine and said, "Did you hear that? The store is closing." I closed my eyes. For the first time, I felt true peace. Justice had finally caught up with the years that had gnawed away at me, and I had done it without yelling, without threatening, without hurting anyone. I had quietly dismantled a rotten system. The irony? I was the one who once held that store together, but their pride blinded them from the truth. Now it stands empty. The shelves are dusty. The registers are silent. But my life, for the first time ever, it's full. A full year had passed since my resignation. At first, it was hard to adjust. For someone who used to wake up at 6 a.m., check every store shelf, and memorize employee shifts by heart, falling into a void wasn't easy. But over time, that void gave way to something else: peace. I began rediscovering myself. I could now have breakfast with my daughter in the mornings, host movie nights in the evenings, and take quiet walks with my wife. I no longer flinched at the sound of an email notification or felt anxious when someone knocked on the door. It felt like the exhausted man who had been trapped inside me for years had finally been set free. I was rebuilding everything I had missed while chasing a career. One day my wife said, "This is the first time I've seen you truly happy." And in that moment I realized the greatest victory wasn't bringing down that store. It was standing myself back up. But sometimes, divine justice comes, served on a silver platter. One evening, we were out for dinner as a family. While waiting for our food, Jasmine said, "Something strange happened to me the other day. I was sitting at the bar in a restaurant when someone familiar walked in. I couldn't place the name at first. I looked at her with curiosity and she went on. I think it was someone from your old store. She said her name, Lissy, Lucy, something like that." I smiled. "Ah, Lissy. She worked the register. She never really liked me." Jasmine burst out laughing. "You're wrong. She said she misses you a lot, that you were treated unfairly. She talked about how Monica destroyed everything, and then she said this: Jake's resignation is what ended that store." Something stirred inside me. Not pride, not arrogance, just calm. A sense of it's done. Jasmine continued. "Monica was fired. The store shut down soon after. Now there's a for sale sign in the window. Lissy couldn't find another job. She's working as a waitress there now. I set down my fork and slightly lowered my head. A faint smile formed on my face. Rarely does life balance its scales so perfectly. But that day, fate weighed everything just right. I didn't scream at anyone. I didn't show up at their doors. I didn't expose anyone on social media. I simply stayed quiet. I worked. I observed. And finally, I walked out the door. My revenge didn't come with a dramatic confrontation or a loud outburst. It was like removing the right brick at the base of a wall. Silent, but devastating. They're still making excuses, while I sip my morning coffee and listen to my children's laughter. If you had asked me back then, how will this story end? I never would have guessed it would be this poetic. But now I know, sometimes, the most powerful act is to do nothing at all. Just leave. Don't look back. Stay silent. Smile. Because sometimes, the most effective revenge is healing. And I'm living in that quiet victory now.